Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this virtual lecture, just finishing up our conversation on monopolistic competition. I apologize, this is virtual rather than in person. All of those of you in the 835 class, hopefully you enjoy a little bit more rest, but I seem to have come down with flu-like symptoms. So rather than risk being a super spreader, decided it was best to do this virtual lecture. Hopefully everything will be back to normal, but do keep an eye on your email and Canvas in case anything changes. Regardless whether there is or is not class, I will make an announcement on Canvas, God willing, no later than Sunday night. So do keep an eye on things. If there are questions, concerns, please reach out to me. Email is going to be the best way. So we finished up on Wednesday talking about the difference between monopolistic competition and competition. With perfectly competitive markets, the demand curve is perfectly elastic because there are identical substitutes all around. So what we tend to see is we tend to see more output of identical goods in a competitive market. Price equals the average cost, and there are zero profits, so on and so forth. The monopolistic competition model, alternatively, faces a downward sloping demand curve because the products are similar but different. Different brands, different features, different colors, all things like that. The monopolistic competition model still has zero profits. Because there are low barriers to entry into the market. But the output of products is slightly lower than the competitive market. But instead of getting a whole bunch of identical goods, you'll get many different varieties of goods. So if firms are differentiating their products, how is it that they get that information out? Why is it that monopolistic models or monopolistic firms can exist? Well, the primary way is through advertising. When firms that are in a perfectly competitive market do not tend to advertise very much. Any benefits gained from that advertising would simply flow to the other firms in the industry. They would be, or I should say, they would be dispersed throughout the industry. Since all goods are identical, you would not be able to raise your prices at all because other firms would just come in and grab your market share. So the marginal cost of advertising is fairly high. You have to pay for advertising space, but the marginal benefit is virtually zero. So marginal cost exceeds marginal benefit, the firm isn't going to do it. There are some exceptions. The milk, the pork, and the cotton industries are required by law to pay for industry-wide advertising because at least in theory, the whole industry benefits from these goods. Some of this is we can get more into the details of the law here at another time if folks wish. However, the reason why these are going on, these milk, pork, and cotton are important political industries. The milk lobby, the pork lobby, and the cotton lobby have significant power in Congress. So they wish to promote their products. No one firm is willing to advertise for the reasons we just talked about. So the lobbyists lobby for this special tax on all firms in order to avoid the free rider problem that we talked about, and we'll talk about again, people being able to enjoy the good or service, in this case, the benefits of advertising without having to pay for it. So you will get some advertising for perfectly competitive industries, but it's mostly done at the industry level, like the Got Milk campaign and things like that. Monopolies don't often advertise because they have no competitors. You don't need to signal that your product is different because there are no other products. However, that's, again, there are exceptions. A monopolist will advertise if they are looking for, or if they're looking to provide information that they have a new product. You'll see advertisements for new drugs, but you won't see advertisements for drugs that have been around for a while. For example, you'll see lots of ads for, all sorts of different heart meds and things like that. Ask your doctor about this new drug. But you won't see a whole lot for Tylenol. Now, Tylenol is out of patent. You can get the generic version, so it does face competition there. But Tylenol still has certain patents. You don't really see a lot of advertising for Tylenol unless there's some new discovery, some new benefit where the firm is trying to provide that information to the public. For the most part, if you think about most of the advertising we see, it's firms with differentiated products. These firms are trying to convey information about how their product differs. They want to lure more customers in. They want to shift out their demand curve. And their advertising is for specific products rather than the general industrial category. So again, you think, say, soft drinks. You'll get Pepsi and Coke fighting these advertising wars. They're advertising their product, not the cola industry in general. So firms will advertise to increase their sales by informing consumers about price, quality, availability. They'll highlight new features. It seems to me it's hard to watch TV without some new iPhone, Samsung, or Google phone commercial, although that could simply be targeted advertising. On my part, where they're advertising, oh, look at all of our new features on this new thing. This is why you should pay this amount of money for our new thing. We do see evidence that advertising lowers prices and improves consumer welfare, especially as advertising has gotten more and more targeted. Again, ethical issues aside of firms collecting and selling data to advertisers, the idea is we now have to spend less time searching for goods that we want because the ads are targeted. You can just find what you want and click and buy. Again, there are ethical issues aside whether, and legal issues for that matter, who actually owns your data. We're putting those aside for right now. This is not a law class. This is not an ethics class, although we do talk about the law and ethical behavior. But at least from an economic perspective, advertising tends to improve consumer welfare. Advertising works by persuading us to buy this good, whether they try to convince us it's something we need or simply something that we want. Treat yourself, things like that. And so persuasion can give us tastes that appear silly or unjustified, frivolous, things like that. A lot of anti-market complaints from advertising derive from this, that persuasion makes us seem more materialistic and less holistic, I guess is the best word. But they can also deepen our enjoyment and our memories. So for example, people like to consume brands for the sake of brands. There are little things that hotels will do to try and make themselves more memorable, to keep you going back. These things may appear to be silly or unjustified, but really, de gustibus est non desperatum, there is no accounting for taste. What may be silly, unjustified, or frivolous to some people may just be a source of pleasure, something fun. Advertising is seeking to convey all that, to capture that, and improve along certain margins. Persuasive advertising creates the market power, that is the ability to set the price for monopolistic competitors. through brand differentiation. Branding also helps along many different margins. It helps overcome what we call asymmetric information. That is when the buyer and the seller have different levels of information. Advertising and branding helps us not worry so much about collecting that information. For example, a McDonald's is a McDonald's pretty much everywhere you go. Whether you're in Thibodaux or Boston, Baton Rouge, Boise, or Beijing, a McDonald's is pretty much going to be a McDonald's. You can walk in there, you know exactly what you're getting. However, smaller restaurants, you don't necessarily know what you're getting. You might have to rely on other sources. The brand does not help you there. So advertising, it does indeed create market power. However, it helps increase consumer welfare by aligning people better with their wants and desires. It helps people enjoy many different kinds of products. And it also helps lower the costs of some things. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, radio, non-cable TV are all free because of advertising. Again, I do not wish to diminish the ethical issues about Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter selling your personal data. Those are issues that I'm sure are going to get worked out over the legal system over the next decade or so. These are very thorny issues. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go into them, so we're just kind of punting on them from now. So the takeaway from this week's lecture is that a monopolistically competitive industry has characteristics of both the monopoly and the perfectly competitive market. It has many sellers and buyers like a competitive market. It has free entry and exit like a competitive market. But all the sellers have differentiated products, similar but different. Consequently, each firm faces a downward sloping demand curve and can price above marginal cost, even though they end up earning zero economic profits. But these firms do not produce at the minimum average cost. And advertising exists primarily in this market as a way of informing consumers about price, quality, and availability, and allows firms to increase perceptions of product differentiation, allows firms to increase their prices, but also provides feedback to the firms about what goods are desirable and what goods are not. What are various features that people want, et cetera, et cetera. So that wraps up this week's lecture. And I just realized you can see my bathroom in the background, so that's fantastic. I should have blurred the screen, but too late for that. So that wraps up this week's lecture. Again, keep an eye on your email, keep an eye on Canvas for information about Monday's class. God willing, this is just a quick little illness, but we'll keep an eye on things. I hope to see everybody Monday.